Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitators and coaches Betsy McLoughlin and Kathy Williams to delve into different areas of your life. Get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. These joyful ladies have changed their lives by utilizing the tools and techniques they share with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Kathy and Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Welcome to Imperfect Brilliance, everyone. I'm Kathy Williams, here with my co-host Betsy McLoughlin, and we are delighted to be having our premiere show on OMTimes Radio today. We've been on the air for several years now, and we've just made this radical change to come over here. So today's show is going to be all about imperfections and brilliance and drawing out your brilliance and what is imperfect brilliance. And with that, before we start our conversation, and we always love to hear your thoughts and ideas, and we've even created a Facebook group for that where you can join us in the Imperfect Brilliance Facebook group and ask your questions. We'll tell you a little bit about Betsy and me so you have an idea. Who are these people? Are they only on the radio or are they something more? So, Bets, would you like to introduce us?
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction. And as Kathy said, we're absolutely thrilled to be here with this wonderful radio show. And so thank you for listening and finding us. So who are we? Well, we actually live in different parts of the United States. I live on the East Coast, and Kathy lives in Maui, Hawaii. I live in a suburb of Washington, D.C., and we are both coaches, and we are also Access Consciousness certified facilitators. And so what does that mean? It means that we've had a lot of training, and we've learned a lot of tools and techniques and questions to really change our lives. And in doing so, we were so drawn to how much we changed that we really just desired to empower everyone around us that is asking questions and looking to change their lives. And what I know we'll dive way more into all of this and who we are and what we enjoy doing. And Kathy, what would you like to add to that? Because I'm sure I've forgotten something.
Well, one thing I'd love to add is we just always love to hear from you because, well, one, we wouldn't be on the radio if we didn't have listeners. So your ideas inform what we talk about, what we cover on the show. And two, we do online classes and in-person classes as well. So if you'd like to go deeper into a particular topic or unwinding years of built-up stress or limitations, we have something for that. And you can find us at imperfectbrilliance@gmail.com and also Imperfect Brilliance on Facebook. And we have a couple of websites we'll mention later in the show where you can communicate because we're here for that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And maybe something else will come up in a little bit.
Yes. Thank you.
You know, I grew up in ballet And in ballet, we were constantly striving, working, pushing for perfection. And so the idea of imperfect brilliance is a little contrary to that.
Just a little.
Yeah, yes, yeah, and in fact, realizing at one point when I was in my early 20s that it was never going to be perfect, never going to be, quote, good enough in my eyes, and maybe in other people's eyes too, primarily in my eyes, I stopped dancing because it was, and I was a professional. I was paid to do that, ballet performances and things like that, and it was just too frustrating to not be able to get it right, not be able to get it perfect. And if I had been able to see my brilliance where I could inspire people, because I did. I would be the sugar plum fairy and have people come back and just wide eyes and just mesmerized. Like that being on the stage was one qualitative experience because it was sort of transcendent. But then being in a rehearsal and working to make it better and better was a totally different experience. And that's where the frustration came in. And that's where if I would have said, hey, Kathy, you're going to make it as good as you can make it, as beautiful as, you can make your lines and do your turns and things like that. And even if it's not perfect, it's way better than 98% of the people on the planet could do. Like, would that be okay with you if you could bring some joy to their area without being perfect? That kind of message to me, 10, 15 years ago, could have made a huge difference.
Wow. Isn't that something? So you shut down all of the joy and everything that you had with dancing because you weren't perfect. Is that one of the things? Okay. So, and then it even begs the question, well, who said you weren't perfect?
Love that question. And if you haven't heard us before on the radio, you're going to find that we ask lots of questions because questions are the doorway beyond what we already know. Questions take us from the box of our past and other people's pasts and what's happened in the past and in the present moment and open the door to a different possibility and in the future and our awareness of what's possible, which isn't present when we're concluding. When we're concluding, again, it draws us back into the box of what we already know. So your question, who was saying I wasn't perfect? It wasn't perfect. No one was directly saying that. It was more of a message of, well, straighten your arms, Kathy. Straighten your leg, Kathy. That's a sickle, Kathy. That's I once had a teacher who I was dancing, and I was in my late teens at that time, and I was just dancing, and he stood right next to me, following me, saying, "No, Kathy, no, 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 no." And I was like, "Well, no, what? No, is it my foot or my arm or my belly or my leg or my I have no idea what you're communicating to me because it's just no." So no one was particularly saying, "Well, you're not perfect." I mean, after all, none of us in the ballet company we're always striving to draw something else out of ourselves, whether that's more artistry or a higher jump or more turns consecutively or whatnot. So it was not a message of, well, that's not perfect, but to me there was always some element of not good enough. And how many listeners have some element of that where maybe you got that message from school or from your parents or, wow, I just thought of this story. That was a really sad story. that I might share in a moment, about a man whose father, said he was not good enough. And yeah, so how many places and spaces do we get that message that it's not good enough or we're not good enough?
Mm-hmm.
And how
Right.
often is that not actually about us, like personally, but it's just about someone recognizing that you have even more possibilities, or someone recognizing or having judgments about themselves or about life that it's not good enough and projecting that onto you.
Well, and I love those questions because it really is, how much of what we perceive that, and then somewhere we have decided and made that like what we strive for. So in that, how much are we not acknowledging everywhere that we are brilliant, everywhere that we have done things beautifully, so when you're doing your pirouettes and, you're really in tune with you and your body, and then you hear your teacher or, the coach or the head of the ballet thing saying, no, Kathy, no. And you're like, wait a minute, and so you start going to the self-doubt of what am I doing wrong? And in asking that question, you negate all the things that you're doing right. And I'm kind of using air quotes here around the words right and wrong, but that's what we tend to do. We tend to look for the things that we are doing wrong as opposed to all the things that we're doing right.
Yes. Yes. Gosh, and if you grew up with teachers like mine in school, once I got out of Montessori school, on the tests, what would they check mark? Do they check mark all the wonderful things you did, or do they check mark the 3 you got incorrect?
Right. So true. So we really kind of grow up, right, looking for all the things that are wrong. And, so we're coming along with even the name of the show, Imperfect Brilliance, to like really embrace everywhere where you think that you are imperfect. And what if your imperfections are actually your brilliance?
Yeah, and a lot of times it's just a shift in perspective. Let's go back to me with ballet. Okay, it's not good enough. Okay, to whom? First off, to me? To the people who will be in the audience? No, to them it's quite good.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah. And what if we take it off? Is it good enough into how many people can I inspire with this? And yes, I'm aiming for my own personal best, which, best could be a judgment, but it's like to be a little greater each day. And that's actually one question one thing I like to play with. What would it take for me to be greater than I was yesterday?
You broke up for a second there, Kathy. So can you repeat that question, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I like to say, what would it take for me to be greater than I was yesterday? Or even 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that there's really a lot of, fun energy around that question. What would it take? What, and anywhere that you're kind of standing in the way of that, the questions that we're going to be introducing to you all on our show they're designed to have you look at things from a different perspective and a different point of view and be like, oh, wait a minute. So, everywhere that I've concluded I can't do any better, or this is as good as it gets, or all of those other things that we have heard for most of our lives, what question can you ask and what question can you be to change things? And even in what you were saying, like how when you're looking up there, like you're on the stage doing your ballet routine, most people can't even do a modicum of the things that you're doing right there and then. And so it's really just interesting to look at things from a different perspective. And what does looking at it from a different way and asking these questions, what can that contribute to things that you're creating in your life? And look at everywhere that you've decided you're wrong or you're limited or you can't do any better. And in asking these questions, what truly is possible for change?
Yeah, and even the question you mentioned a few minutes ago, what question can I ask here? It's just so simple, but it helps us shine the flashlight of our awareness in another direction instead of, again, what we've concluded. And remember, conclusion always boxes us in.
Yeah.
So a question will help us see something beyond what we've decided. Like if I've decided I'm not good enough, then that's what I'm going to see. But if I say, oh, okay, well, where is my brilliance? And we'll see it just in a few minutes.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Betsy McLoughlin here with Kathy Williams, and we're on our premiere show with OMTime Radio, and we are super excited to be here. And today's topic, we are talking about what is imperfect brilliance, and what if everything that you have decided is wrong and imperfect and awful about you, what if you turn that around, and what if that actually is your brilliance that you've not been willing to see? So, Kathy, right before you were teasing us a little earlier in the show that you had a story for us about a man. And
Oh
you
gosh,
hinted that you might tell us. Do you remember?
Now I have to tell it, don't I? So there was this man, and he's a friend of someone I was listening to, and he was a huge drinker, and he was just really, really just causing problems for his own life. And my friend got some history on him, and it's like, his father, like, no matter what he would do, his father was the only person he really wanted to please. Number one problem, right? When someone X is the person that we need to please, we're creating a problem for ourselves. Okay? Because if we depend on them, ourselves to make them happy, oh my goodness, I mean, their happiness is their choice. And it's based on what they're thinking and what stories they're telling themselves. So anyway, he was constantly trying to please his father. So he excelled in school, and he was great at sports, and he was doing all of these things to, prove to his father that he was kind of good enough for his father. And ultimately he ended up going to college, graduating, and getting a wonderful job. And he called up his dad, and he was like, look what job I got. Isn't it amazing? And his dad was sort of indifferent and like, is that all? And that just set him over the edge. And that's what really caused him to just like, it doesn't matter. Life doesn't matter. I can't please my father. So what's the point?
Yeah.
So trying to be good enough for someone external from us, I mean, like, he could have been president of the United States or CEO of a major corporation, and his dad might still not be impressed by him, or published, 16 top-selling books, and his father might not be impressed. And it's like, is that important? Do we have to make someone else's point of view about us more important than our own point of view about us?
That's a great question, and I know certainly I have done that a lot in my life as well, where I have looked externally for other people's approval and I definitely grew up as a people pleaser and always trying to keep the peace in my family. I was the oldest, and I felt like it was my responsibility to take care of my siblings and keep the peace. And, and then I also at the same time was always looking for the external approval. So when you're looking at others to approve, it kind of goes back to, where your perception of either what you think that they're thinking or what they actually do say to you, how much do you translate all of that into where you've decided you're wrong and you can't get things right, and then you carry that with you through your life.
So what questions can we ask when people are finding this in their lives? What questions could we ask, Betsy?
Exactly. So as we said earlier in the show, that is one thing that we have learned, how to change the things that we have changed in our lives, where for me, after years and years and years of being depressed and doing some therapy and different things which got me to a certain point where I was definitely better than I was. And then when I learned that, by asking questions, as Kathy was talking about right as we went to the break, where it opens the door to new possibilities that didn't exist when you are in conclusion. Because when you're in conclusion, you've closed all the doors and windows. And when you start asking questions, these windows and doors start opening and other possibilities come in. So, what can you gift yourself so that you are honoring you and not looking for others to validate who you are? So what questions can you ask, and what gift can you acknowledge that you are right here and right now that perhaps you've never stopped to look at or ask? And how many different places in your life are you absolutely brilliant that you've never acknowledged? So would you be willing to acknowledge your brilliance?
Yes.
Or even your imperfect brilliance? Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it just requires a shift in perspective. And I'll give you an example from my life today. Because today I was teaching a class, and let's say like 6 or 8 people registered for the class. And one of them got sick, and one of them had to go to the court, and then 2 of them I didn't hear from, and and one lady canceled, and two canceled, and so soon we're left with 2 people. And so I was looking at this like, oh my gosh, like, I created this class and I got 2 people. And then, I turned it around, because it's like I started to look at all of the lives and the changes that will be created from this one class. And of course that's not a visible thing, right? But I started to tap into the energy that's creating from this one class, influencing 2 people, because people go out and they're different and they influence others, and just even by being more peaceful within them. And then what I did, because again, I could still be beating myself up. Oh gosh, like I didn't get the word out enough, or look, I didn't spend enough time on this, or whatever. I could tell myself tons of stories along those lines. And then the other thing I did was I looked back at, okay, so you've facilitated several hundred people in this now, like this bars class. And bars is a modality that both Betsy and I facilitate, and that can be found around the world. And then I tapped into the energy of that and what that's created in people's lives. And with that, it was just sort of bubbly and delightful and yummy and like, wow. When I'm spending my time looking at what is not and lamenting that, that's not really fun at all. And when I look at the brilliance and the beauty of what is and what I have created, totally same situation, just flipped my perspective, it creates so much more. And that, to me, is really connecting to your imperfect brilliance. Yes, would I have loved to have, 10, 20 people? Yes. And, like, look what this is, your choices have created that's greater than you've acknowledged. And one of the questions I love to ask in a situation in which it's like, or disappointing or something like that, I look at creating that's greater than I've acknowledged. And you could even add, and greater than I've imagined. Because that question is inviting the universe to show you. It's inviting you to shine the flashlight of your awareness in that direction.
And would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah.
Thank
What
you.
future is this creating that's greater than I've imagined?
What a wonderful question. Yes. So, and that is, it's such a great question, especially when you're going to judging. If you're judging yourself or, oh gosh, 8 people signed up and 2 people showed up. And then you go to the lack or to the all the things you did wrong so that only, air quote around the word only, bolding, right? Only 2 people showed up. And, right? And so when you're in that space, you're not in the space of gratitude. You're not in, and so then in asking the questions that Kathy asked, and she flipped it to, hey, what is this creating that I'm not even aware of, and being grateful for that, like everything is then kind of allowed to be and breathe and create and contribute in ways that you don't even know yet, and you may never know. And that's one of the really kind of cool things. And I did that recently myself, Kathy, in a different situation. I received a check for something, some work that I had done, and it wasn't what I was looking at. It wasn't like a lot of money. And I kind of went to this energy, and then I realized what I was doing, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, thank you. I'm so grateful for this money showing up in my life. And then it's a fun question to ask, to be like, what would it take to, exponentialize this by 10? Or what would it take to exponentialize this money by 100? And playing in that energy where there is, an invitation and there's possibility versus the grumbling, kind of begrudging energy that I was when I first opened the envelope and saw the check. And I thought, oh my gosh, and in that begrudging energy, how much was I refusing what the universe was gifting me, and it's staring at me in front of me, and I was like, bleh. So fortunately, I realized what I was doing. I could laugh at my imperfections and say, oh, let me change this. Let me change the energy here and be super grateful. And when I deposited the check, I really was. I was like, wow, thank you so much. And even apologizing to myself that I had that point of view and I had that reaction. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This was, and in that, it really just like lightened my mood and changed everything. And it can be that quick. And that's really a fun thing to play with. It's like, oh, wait, how can I change this? What can I choose differently? What questions can I ask that will shift whatever's going on if it's an uncomfortable energy, which it was.
Well, I love too, Betsy, that you said it can be that quick. Because it can, if we're in a cascade of negative thoughts, all it takes is a moment of insight to change. Those negative thoughts are impermanent, right? And if we don't get hooked in too much and we're just like, oh, yeah, those are just thoughts. And one of the Access Consciousness tools is interesting point of view. That every thought, feeling, emotion, attitude, consideration, judgment you have is just an interesting point of view, which means you don't have to hold on to it as though it's reality.
Yeah.
Thought.
Yeah. No, that really is that you're allowed to change your mind, right? You're allowed to shift your perspective. And, that's another thing. It's kind of like I used to think that, well, once I had that point of view, that I had to, I had to hold on to it, and I had to prove it, and I had to, work hard to keep that point of view. And it wasn't always easy.
Yeah. I mean, it is proven easy. The rightness of, this is what I've chosen, and it's the right choice, and one of the things we talk about in a class that both Betsy and I teach called The Foundation is it's so much easier to say, oh, you know what? I'm wrong. Even if you're just recognizing that in that other person's head, you're wrong. From their perspective, from their point of view, you're wrong. And that deflates any position that anyone is trying to push against you to prove their point of view. Proving takes so much energy, and being wrong takes no energy, except in saying that you're wrong, because a lot of us have a lot of resistance to being wrong. So we're unwilling to say it. It's really hard to say it. But if we are willing to say it, it can create so much ease in our life. And recognizing that even wrong is just a point of view, taking that a moment in time. It's not wrong forever. It's not wrong to everybody necessarily. It's just, I'm wrong in this 10 seconds in your head. I'm wrong. So we'll continue the conversation.
We'll be back. Yep. You're listening to Imperfect Brilliance. Woohoo!
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
My name is Meera Batra, and this is How I Live United. Many families have come to America for a better life. I advocate for these families with United Way. United Way empowers them to see opportunities available. We help them get involved with their kids' schools and network within the community. My name is Meera Batra. I help families see opportunity and succeed. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance, where we are most definitely imperfectly brilliant.
How does it get any better than that?
How does it? How does it? So what else would we like to discuss, Kathy, in our last segment here?
One of the really useful things is, we've mentioned shifting perspective. We mentioned recognizing that each point of view you have is just an interesting point of view. And if you don't have to push or defend or make it right, or that life becomes a whole lot easier. So even your point of view when you're thinking, oh my, I'm so pathetic, or whatever it may be. Oh darn, I only got 2 people in the class, or an 80 on the test, or whatever it is. It's like, where can you shift your perspective? Oh, well, I passed, and that's great. Oh, well, now I know what I need to take a look at even more. Always using what's in front of you to create something greater. What future is this creating that's beyond my wildest imaginings? What future is this creating that I haven't acknowledged yet? Mm-hmm. And, 2 of the questions that Betsy and I play with too is when something seems wrong or upsetting or whatnot, you can also ask, what's right about this I'm not getting?
Yes, and one of the first times I heard that question, I was like, I don't even get it. Like, what? And it's designed really to kind of bypass your logic and get to shifting energies. So what is right about this? What is right about this I'm not getting? When you're frustrated, when you're angry, when things don't seem to be changing, what is going on that you can change by asking these questions? So I thank you for bringing more questions into this conversation today, Kathy. And one of the things that I'm just hearing to remind people again is acknowledging your brilliance. And would you be willing to start acknowledging not only your brilliance, but everyone around you? Like when you go to a restaurant and you have great service, how many times does a manager get a compliment on their staff? Versus how many times do they get complaints? Right? So would you be willing to be that invitation for acknowledging everybody's brilliance and including yourself in that acknowledgement? So yourself and everyone else around you. And when you are that, whatever the invitation is, whatever you're being, that always has a ripple effect, way beyond what you can see and what you can even know or what you can think. Like, how many times do you impact somebody in your day that you don't even realize you impact? So if you're walking around being in the space of gratitude and acknowledging people and acknowledging yourself, including yourself in everything that you're doing, and remembering to honor you, how much does that contribute and invite others to be that for themselves and everyone around them?
Yeah. I love that. I love that you brought that up. Yesterday I saw something written by a woman named Vladika, and I won't even pronounce her last name. It's Swedish, and she's an Access Consciousness 3-day body facilitator. And she was talking about getting in a cab with the driver, and she started asking him about himself, and he said, wow, it's fascinating to have someone who recognizes me as a person, because most of the time, I'm invisible to people. I'm just the person who takes them where they want to go. And gosh, can you imagine going through your day-to-day job, being invisible to most people, like being there and being instrumental in their lives, right? You're getting them where they need to go, but not really being acknowledged as a person. And that's a brilliance. I have a friend and a student who lives on Maui where I live, and is she oftentimes doesn't recognize her brilliance. And I was like, do you see how warm you are and how welcoming you are to people, and that is a huge gift to them? You put them at ease so much. And not everyone has that capacity that you have. I mean, some of the times our capacities are so natural to us that we don't even see or recognize them as capacities. And would you start to recognize and acknowledge the capacities that you have, and also the ones others have, so that you can expand those? Because whatever we acknowledge in our lives expands. It's kind of that idea that whatever you focus on grows.
You know, it reminds me, thank you so much for that piece, and it reminds me of something I haven't done in quite a while. And I remember last time I did it, I was actually kind of blown away by what occurred. So would you be willing to ask other people, like 2 people or 5 people or 10 people or 1 person, or even yourself, if you're not willing to ask somebody else, but ask them to write down 10 things that they see about you. You know, what is it that, you know, you could use the word like makes you shine or brilliant, or what do you see in me, or however you'd like to ask that question. And ask them to give you 10 things. I did that. I can't even remember what it was originally a part of, but it was some sort of challenge in a class or something. And there were, I think, 15 or 20 people in the class. And so we all did it. And then the next time we met, everybody had their list. And across the board, people were blown away by what people had said about them. And what was very interesting is there were some, you know, a lot of things were recurring within different people, and these people didn't know each other, but what they said about that person was amazing. So how much fun would it be for you to ask that? And even if it's like kind of out of your comfort zone, would you be willing to do that? And then we did it even further. I have a laminator, and I actually took everything that people had written down and I laminated them and I gave them back to them, and they had them up in their offices.
Oh,
and
how
that
cool.
was so cool, right? To see that, to like walk by and see these attributes that they didn't see in themselves that other people saw in themselves, but then they were willing to like put that reminder up in front of them to be like, hey, look at these qualities that people see in you. And then,
what a gift, Betsy.
How much fun. Right? I know, it was an amazing experience. And then like how much fun would it be for then you to randomly, you know, send somebody an email or send them a letter or text them and just list some things that you see in them. How much would that make your day, right, to receive something like that that says, oh, my gosh, I love these things about you, and then you're reading this. I received a message last night from somebody, and I was really tired and kind of fried, and she just gave me a simple message of gratitude of something that I was doing for her, and I actually burst into tears. I mean, it was,
oh, wow.
And I didn't expect to, and it was so nice to just hear some words of thank you. It was like her timing couldn't have been better, right? So what if your timing of sending a message to somebody with these things that you see in them could just make their day or their week? So how much fun could you have with that?
Wow, like a little genie or little fairy of acknowledgement.
Oh, yes, I like that. Like sprinkling your acknowledgement magic all over.
Oh.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and how much does that like expand the joy on the planet? You know, a lot of times on the show we'll talk about just being you changes the world, and Your attitude makes a difference. Your energy that you show up with makes a difference. Your words, of acknowledgement, and again, it's not someone else's. Someone else should not be depending on you for acknowledgement or their happiness, but your words do make a difference. The way we show up, just by being us, can change someone's life for the better. So what can we choose? What can we say that is going to expand, the joy on the planet? And it's one choice at a time. It's not that you have to go out and do something huge, although you can. It's one choice at a time. Using a grocery store clerk's name, being friendly to somebody, reaching out and giving a thank you, just like Betsy received a thank you, and it just totally changed her world. What kindness can you be and receive today? Wow.
It reminds me of a story, a quick story when it was a couple of years ago, and it was right at the holidays, and I had a friend in town, and we were having a great day, being with a friend I hadn't been with in a long time, and we were joking and laughing, and we were running errands, and we were going from store to store, and we went into this one store, and it was like hitting a brick wall of, like, this person was so down and so, like, didn't want to be there, and it was like, whoa. And we just went in, and we were laughing and joking, and then when we got in line and we were talking to him, we included him, just like we were just talking about. We included him, we acknowledged him, we thanked him. We said, oh my gosh, this must be like really hard for you. You're standing all day, and you've got these long lines of people out the door, and people are irritable and rushing around. And he, like, his total persona, like, changed, and he brightened up, like you said, with the taxi driver, like, because you were acknowledging him as somebody more than who's, a means to an end of getting your goods and leaving the store. And he was like, oh, it's quite something. And I said, yeah, I could tell you seem kind of frazzled. And he said, yeah, I really am. And we were just joking and laughing with him. And by the time we left, he went from this huge frown to a smile, and actually, wishing us having a good day and a happy holiday. And then he was talking to the people in the line, whereas before he was not even making eye contact and everything. So you really can, something that quick of an interaction really could be something that changes somebody's day.
Wow. Yeah. So in a few minutes, we're going to finish the show, but what action can you take? Would you like to reach out to a friend, or just resolve to be more something else, something totally different? Relax and smile and listen to music on the way home, or listen to us on the way home, so that by the time you're home, you're happily interacting with others, the people you live with, or whatever it may be,
Yes.
What can you choose, both to acknowledge your brilliance and to expand other people's awareness of their brilliance and capacities? So before we conclude our first show on OMTimes Radio, Betsy, would you like to share anything that's upcoming for you, or what you're doing or what we're doing?
Oh, thank you. Gosh, well, we have a joint telecall coming up. I always want to say a different name than what it is. Help me out here, Kathy.
It's, it's on imperfectbrilliance.com, and it is, oh gosh, we've changed the name. It's not for Catholics only. Guilt-free and loving it.
Oh, right. Guilt-free and loving it. Yes. And so that is a telecall series that's coming up later in March, and you can find information on that on imperfectbrilliance.com. And we would love, like Kathy mentioned earlier, we have a Facebook page where you can find all kinds of stuff going on. And Kathy has an individual website. And what is the name of your website, my dear?
You can go to meetkathywilliams.com and get some free goodies. meetkathywilliams.com or iotransformation.com/workshops. We'll have all sorts of in-person on Maui. You can come join us on Maui at the end of the month, or London and Hilton Head and other fun places too. So iotransformation.com/workshops. We'll have all of that. And your website name is so cute.
Mine is creatingyumminess.com. And you guys, thank you for being with us on our premiere show for Imperfect Brilliance. And go be imperfectly brilliant.
Thank you so much, everybody. Please be in touch. Aloha.
Bye-bye.